me just see. So we are live, but let me just make sure that we are live. I'm not seeing it show up. That's not good. Hold on. It says we're live. Bear with me. Oh, we are live. Cool. Very cool. Hi, Janine. How are you?
I'm awesome, thank you. How are you on this beautiful day?
Good, thanks. So I am so happy to have you on live with me on the Confidence Code activation. And for those of you who are not familiar with Janine and her work, Janine is a mindset alchemist that helps women who are going through their own life transformations and helping them get from stuck to an unstoppable phase of their life. And so, Janine, can you share with me a bit and kind of give our audience here an explanation or an overview of what it is that you help women do?
Thank you, Jean, and thank you for the privilege of being able to share with everyone. Well, what I do is I help people understand where they are, have a look at where they would like to go, and what is preventing them. And this came about because I really wasn't very well. In fact, I was let's put it this way, I passed out while I was driving due to various reasons, which wasn't very safe. And I decided I'm going to get better. And this led me to mindset work. It led me to an understanding of if you aren't living your purpose and you're feeling stuck, you need help. And at that time, I didn't know where to go for help. The people I went to didn't quite know how to help me. And then my dad died. And I had a realization that, well, you know what? If something happens to my husband, my business can't sustain me, and I'd better make a plan. And that helped me to understand how many women were in a very similar position to I was, that they felt stuck and they didn't know how to do anything about it. And that living in that quiet desperation of not knowing where you're going and how to get where you would like to go, that you would even like to go somewhere, was very important. And I realized I had the confidence to go and get around it. But many women didn't. For many years, they hadn't worked, they basically hadn't been celebrated, and they were living their husband's or their parents' dream, not their own. And some of them are very successful business people in their own right. They just weren't very well. And they were coming to me for help to say, well, how do I get well? Well, let's look at where you should be and where you are. And that is how it all came about.
That's awesome. And that's such a powerful background and story in terms of how you got to where you are today, Janine. And I think there's so many of us that can, men or women, I think there's so many of us that can relate to that story, because I know even in my own experience that when I'm feeling, in those instances where I'm feeling stuck, that's when I get the most frustrated. That's when I get the most upset. That's when I get the most I'll call it desperate. It's that desperate energy, because you just feel like you're swimming alone and just like barely treading water, keeping your head above, like in a vast ocean. And there's like no rescue boats near, right? And so you're like not sure how long you can keep it up for. So it is so powerful to be able to help other women understand that, they have their own existence, their own bodies are a buoy that will keep them afloat, and that they don't need to rely on others to come in and save them. They're more than capable to do that for themselves and to be able to keep moving forward and having that power. So for those of our audience today who don't know, Janine and I are wonderful friends. And so I was so excited that she was able and willing to join my broadcast today. And Janine, you have helped me so much in terms of my own personal challenges each and every day. Hey, Stanley, how are you? You have helped me with my own personal challenges each and every day, especially when it comes to motherhood or as a working woman, as a fempreneur. And so, I'm just so grateful that you're here sharing with me, sharing, kind of the tools that you've shared with me with others as well. And this will be fun because this will be like a little inside view of what our normal conversations are like. Because Janine and I don't have normal conversations. I mean, we do, but we don't. I think most of the time we're having conversations that may, like, if other people took a look at it from the outside, may actually, like, I don't know if it would be scare, but it would definitely kind of, jolt them up a little bit.
That is true. That is very, very true. And I think the biggest thing there is, Jean, is people are afraid of change because, like you say, that it's confidence. It comes down to confidence. And
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. Women, because they've got normally got so much going on and they feel overwhelmed, like, you're a mom, you're working, you're now at home and homeschooling and it's that and that takes people by surprise.
Yeah. Stanley says, powerful women, I believe, are the back. I think he meant bone of the family. I totally agree, Stanley. I definitely agree. I think powerful women, or women in general, are all powerful in my view. And Janine, I'm sure you agree as well. And women definitely, I think, and I caught myself doing it this morning too, as I was getting the family ready. We just naturally take on these roles without questioning it, because it's, number one, what you mentioned, which is the societal views of what women should behave, how women should behave, which we have adopted as our own, or which we just operate by without questioning. I think there's a lot of that. And it's also in our nurturing, innate nurturing abilities, right, or tendencies to take on all of these things to help others. And so it's just natural for us to help our family. Not only that we love them, but it's just natural as well. So let's talk about mindset and confidence, because I think you are a person that believes very well, and this is like, you're in Mindset Alchemist, right? So number one, what does a mindset alchemist do? And then number two, how does mindset correlate with confidence? How does it lead to greater confidence?
Well, let's look at the word. How are you in your mind? Because that is what mindset is about. Whose beliefs are you taking on? Whose values have you taken on? And do people even know what their values are? Because I find the majority of my clients have never done a values assessment, or if they've done it, it's been work-related and not personal. Because very much we have core values and we have environmental values. We also are energetic beings. Our bodies work on electricity, and our thoughts work with electricity. Our minds work on electricity. And I'm going to pull a little aside. Most people are unaware that they have a mind in their gut, they have one in their heart, and they have one in their brain. And it's to get all of these working together that we are able to set our mind up for confidence, set it up for success, and to live a life that we would like to live. Yes, we can still do everything that we take on. However, sometimes the biggest thing about mindset is to learn that no is a complete sentence. Then we come to Alchemist. When we think, when we feel, we are creating. It sets up a chemistry in our body. And when you look at what an alchemist did, they brought about transformation. They were the original scientists, where they would see how different things work energetically, how realities work, how we create our own reality, and how we work with those realities. And which brings me back to the fact that we very often, 99.9,000%, take on other people's values, other people's points of view. And only when we start working with ourselves that we start saying, do I really believe this? What would happen if I believed something else? And when you take that chemistry of shifting your beliefs, shifting the way you're thinking, shifting the way you're feeling, your words express this, because you think something, you speak it, you add feeling to it, gee, you know, and I know that chemistry
It's
can
powerful.
cause an explosion or an implosion. And it's
Yeah.
very, very powerful. And people are unaware of what they are saying. And when I listen to people, I shouldn't give the secret away, but when I listen to people and when people, first of all, tell me what their body is saying and doing, that gives me an idea. And when I listen to them, I go, oh dear, or I go, oh wow. So, you know, you can have both ends of the spectrum because it's people's wording, it's the way they phrase things, it's the way their bodies respond. I love that you brought up that we are in our bodies because our bodies speak to us. And when we set that brain in our gut, the brain in our heart, and the brain in our head to work together, you have a chemical composition of it. It's very powerful. So we can either create or we can crumble our lives with our thoughts and our words and our actions, because it doesn't matter what you are doing, what you are thinking, you're always creating. So you can be creating lack, you can be creating pain, you can be creating purpose, you can be creating abundance. And it's having that awareness of it that is so incredibly powerful. So because an alchemist brings transformation, I work with people looking to change in a transforming way, because as you know, and I know, it's a spiral. You can work your way up to the top and you can go wee all the way down to the bottom all on the same day. You can do that 30 times. And it's when we take change and we embody it and we change the chemistry of it, and we actually create the space to allow ourselves to transform in that change. You know this, I know this. However, not everybody knows it in a conscious way.
Yeah.
And we can help people make it conscious so that they can, instead of going, wee, they might go there and then back up. You don't have to go all the way down to the bottom. You could sort of like catch yourself halfway. And it comes back to that. How are you choosing to transform?
Yeah, and I think what you just said, there are so many powerful golden nuggets in there. And so, number one, I think what people don't realize is that, and this is something that I read too. So, from like like even if we talk scientifically, on a scientific level, every cellular at the cellular level of our bodies, each cellular or cell has its own ability to operate on its own. So technically it's functioning on its own. It has, you know, the ability to function on its own as our whole body does. However, it's functioning together to create what we have here as our physical form. And as such, it has its own energy as well. As you're saying, it carries its own energy as well. And so our heart does, our mind does, our gut does, like every single thing does. So it is important to tune in and also to recognize when the body is giving you the signs that, you know, you're feeling a certain way, and to ask that question. The other thing that you mentioned that was super important, and now my like peanut mind forgotten.
Your wonderful, magnificent mind.
My wonderful, magnificent mind that just went blank a little bit. But one of the things that I think is so super important too, as we're talking about, you know, one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you on and to talk about this is because, you know, and I haven't shared with anybody publicly about what has happened for me recently. And what it has shown me was that it was just so powerful in terms of how our minds can help shift our reality. And because miracles can happen, and I think in this case, a miracle has happened. And and I think it's, and you know, it's just but I think what people don't tend to understand, and I've shared this with you recently too, is I think those who think they understand aren't, but then they go and kind of demonstrate that they don't understand. That's kind of where the danger lies. Because when we're talking about mindset and we're talking about shifting our reality, it's not just a simple process of I think I can and therefore I am, or I think I am and therefore I am. It's getting deeper than that, right, Janine? Like it's something that it takes effort. It takes a willingness to be uncomfortable with change, as you had mentioned. And it takes work. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's work. And it's work that, but it's work that's like, if you know, because we're on LinkedIn and because we're all corporate and we live in this state of being where, you know, we think about return on investments. It's work that generates one of the highest returns on investments when we're doing it. And what that work is personal development work. It's willingness to get deep and uncomfortable with our feelings. And that is super powerful. And that's where I know you have helped me tremendously in terms of kind of bringing the mirror up to my face when I'm looking at things. And as much as I don't like it in the minute, I do, you know, like I'm not opposed to it. This is how we keep growing, is that it does come back and it helps, right? Because we're asking ourselves the question. And it's amazing that you realize, you know, and as much as like, and this is something I share with my clients all the time too, it's stop blaming the other person on the other side. Yes, there is a part of that. It takes two, it takes more than two. I absolutely agree to it, but but then when we start to give that power, and it truly is, when we start to say it's all the other person's fault, we end up feeling completely helpless because we're like, well, what could we have done to X, Y, and Z it, right? But there's actually a lot that we could have done, because what this is, or how about the fact that what is there that not what could have we done, but what is there that we can do now to take it, to absorb it, to learn from it, and then to let it go, which so many of us have difficulty doing, right? Like, I don't know about you, but I know for me, one of the things, it's always challenging to let things go because we just get so caught up.
Mm-hmm. That, Jean, is so relevant because as a human being, people are addicted to suffering. They're addicted to disaster. They're addicted to negativity. And people will default to the suffering and to the negativity before they will default to joy. And you talked about return on investment. I have absolutely seen that money in business follows joy, not joy following money in business. Change follows joy, not joy follows change. And absolutely there's work involved. And the work is around awareness and being conscious. It's around owning who we are now, not who people say we are or who people would like us to be. And when we go into who we are and that shadow side of ourselves, owning, if I keep seeing this in other people, where is it inside of myself? Where is that person speaking to? Where am I speaking to myself through that other person's voice? And I find clients resist this the most. I would never say that to myself. Really? Well, guess what? You just did. And it came through your partner's voice, your manager's voice, your child's voice. You were saying that to yourself. And many people go, never, never. And I have found that that is the biggest resistance to change. And
Yes.
I'm very proud of how you've owned maybe there's infinite possibilities of understanding this situation. And I know for myself, when I look at, okay, what's really going on here? What is the lie that I'm feeling and hearing at a deeper level? What is the truth I'm not getting? What is right about this situation? What is right about this that I'm not getting? What is the lie in this that's wrapped in a truth that's coming forward? Because when things keep coming forward to us, there's a lie in it or there's a healing in it. And guess what? You're right. Both require work. And that then enables people to be better at work, in their business, within their relationships, within their parenting. Because that is what is opened. That opens the creativity of a situation, and it opens it. You know my favorite phrase, how does it get any better than this? Life is always working out for me. And my best phrase is, That's an interesting point of view. I have that point of view about that person's point of view. Or the other one that I know cheeses people off completely is, that's an interesting point of view. You have that point of view about my point of view. And the most wonderful thing is, you don't have to do a 180 to change your point of view. You just have to do a fraction, little change. It doesn't have to be a whole change. It's literally just a, oh, now I'm looking at something different. And that brings confidence, knowing that we can shift our perspective. We can shift our perspective and not have to take on somebody else's perspective of our perspective. And confidence comes through competence. Competence comes from awareness and practice, tweaking, checking in. What's the trigger? What's the change? PDCA. You plan it, you do it, you check in and see. Is this going the way I'd like it to go? What actions should I do? Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's do it again. And that brings confidence, because you are taking action on what it is you're choosing to work on, choosing to grow through, and choosing to embody. And it's when people are not prepared to do that work, like you so truly said, when they, oh no, it's my mother's fault. Well, it may have been your mother's fault at the time. However, you are 42 years old at this point in time. It cannot still be your mother's fault, because you have a choice to enact change and then achieve transformation.
Right.
Is that a bit harsh?
Yeah. Well, some people will find it harsh, right? Because then it just puts it puts it back onto them, because it's so much easier to put it onto everybody else. But when we look at it within ourselves and to see how our part in it exists, it, people aren't necessarily ready for that heaviness to come through. And I think one of the things that you and I have always talked about is this being open in order to truly receive. And I think this is like something that I've been learning, and it's been shown to me over and over again, is that in order to truly receive all of the good in life, you are open. You have to be open to receive all of the bad in life. And thing is, there's no good or bad. It's just different situations, but you have to be able to receive everything. And I think people are so resistant to that. And that resistance is kind of this wall that you put up to block it, but you're also blocking all the other stuff from coming in. So it's not like you can just have a doorway to opening all the good and you keep the bad out in another doorway. No, they all come through. Like, energy doesn't work like that. It all comes through one doorway. And, I think what is powerful about the work that you and I do from a coaching perspective is that we allow our students to just be who they are. We allow them to, we actually, I think you do a lot of it very well, which is you encourage them to be who they are instead of trying to be somebody that they're not. And I think, and that's super powerful, because I think there's a lot of coaches out there that don't necessarily do that, right? I think they feel that, in order to succeed, you have to subscribe to a certain formula, you have to do this and that, and it worked for them, so it has to work for you. And if you're not, then you're not doing it right. But no, that's not. I think that part of your coaching, and I definitely try to do the same thing with my clients too, is like, no, here's the tools, you take it and you apply it. And you'll never be scared when something bad comes through, because you'll always have the tools to be able to change that. And those tools, you just gave a whole bunch of them away for free, which is all of the questions in which you ask that changes your mindset, right?
Yes.
So you guys got a whole bunch of free coaching from Janine just now, in like we've like gotten less than like half an hour in, and she's already shared all her secrets.
Oh, I love it. But you know what, for me, is so awesome. The more you share, the more you have to. And I love what you were saying, how we don't have to. We can choose to take on what we perceive as bad, what we perceive as good, and just let it all flow through us. We don't have to hold on to anything.
Yeah.
Just, oh, that's an interesting point of view, and actually visualize it flowing through you. Just feel it going out the back of you. That person doesn't like me, doesn't like what I said. That's okay. I don't like what I say some days, and some days I don't like me. And guess what? We get to deal with it. It's an interesting point of view, and it disappears behind us for somebody else to sort out. How does it get any better than that? You don't have to hold on to anything. It's amazing.
It is amazing. And one of the things that has come up for me just now as we're talking as well is confidence in corporate, because we are in LinkedIn, and confidence in business as well as this is going to apply to this question, which is, I think there is this fear, there is this underlying current of fear that there's never enough, whether it's in corporate or in business, never enough clients, because that or never enough money, or never enough, whatever it is, right? Enough love from your manager or from your clients. There's never enough, right? And then, so I think though, what I think is the one thing that has changed my view in terms of competition versus collaboration is that there's always enough. And it's your mindset that creates the lack of never enough, right? Because it's our limited beliefs, it's societal's point of view. And quite frankly, I don't know if we should go there, but it's an element of control that was established a long time ago. Not that like anybody we know now has established it, but it's established a long time ago and has been carried down through generations, that this is the way that they control it. It's never enough. It's rationed out. Remember, like, it's rationed out. The government rations out sugar. The government rations out bread. But really, at the end of the day, there is enough. And so from that aspect, it's a whole mindset shift in and of itself, right? So when we start to operate where it is more than enough, that becomes super powerful, because that changes your energy entirely. But that's a simple mindset shift. It's a mindset limiting belief associated with it. And then, I mean, just can you imagine the possibilities that would exist if people all started to come from the same place as we have more than enough? And go ahead.
That would be amazing. And I think it's because we've never been taught to create. We are taught you have to, schooling came from the Prussian system to get ready to work for factories. It was to teach people how to respond to bells and that control you were talking about. And it's when people say it's their fault because they're in charge. It's their fault because they're in charge. No, you're in charge. And Viktor Frankl, in his Meaning of Life, brings forward the meaning very bluntly. I mean, he was beaten, he was starved, his work was burnt. One thing he really, really embodied is no one had control over his thoughts. Only he did. And that is the attitude. And when Jean, I don't work with the clients you work with. I wouldn't know where to start with corporate people in a corporate setting. How to work as themselves, yes. Same thing. I mean, I don't choose to work with new mommies anymore. I used to. So there's always space for everyone.
Yeah.
And that, I just love the way you say that there's more than enough. Look at a corn. You plant one seed of corn. You don't just get one seed back. You get thousands of seeds on the different ears of corn. Okay, we're not talking about hybridization now and genetic modification, because I don't think we should go down that pathway on this platform. However, it's abundance. When we choose to work in abundant mindsets, and that is where our shadow side comes forward. We only get jealous of people because we have that same ability within ourselves. And when we can look at the fact and go, hey, jealousy, thank you for coming forward. What exactly am I jealous of in that person? Where is it within myself, and how can I be expansive with it and creative with it rather than petty? And the same thing goes with when we compare ourselves. You wouldn't be comparing yourself to that person if you didn't have that same essence within yourself. And comparison keeps us small. Comparison steals our confidence, because something I've learned about comparison, I sound like I'm preaching here and I'm not. Why, something I've learned about comparison is go and compare yourself to the wholeness and the fullness of that person's success. Would you like to have gone through the abuse they went through as a child? Would you have liked to have gone through the studies with the dyslexia they have to gain success? Compare apples with apples and not apples with pears. Because I tell you, every single time you will, like the Indians say, you'll put your own moccasins back on and let the other person let go, get on with it. And that is all part of confidence. When we criticize, when we condemn, when we complain, and when we compare, we are stripping ourselves of our confidence. When you look to be creative, as you so rightly said, we look at the infinite possibilities in a situation and we own that we have the shadow side and we have a light side. The shadow side is showing us what we are not owning as part of ourselves. We can move to the light side, and that creates more for everyone. It creates more for yourself, it creates more for your family. I saw it in myself the minute I started owning who I truly am and not who other people think I am. My husband started growing. My children started growing. As my husband grew, it left space for me to grow. As I grew, it left more space for him. And that is the essence of creation, of being more. And when you be more and you be awareness and you be creativity, guess what? You get to make space for others to be more. How do you get any better than that?
And so let's talk about the basics for a minute, because I think what you and I talk about is kind of like what we're talking about is what you and I talk about a lot. And so we have this understanding of what awareness is and what consciousness is. But for those of the audience who don't understand what awareness truly is or what consciousness truly is, could you explain or provide an explanation of what is awareness and what is consciousness? And I guess, are there tools for people that they can use to help them realize when they're not being conscious of what they're doing or who they are being? And are there tools that they can use for the same awareness aspect of it?
That's so awesome. Thank you. It's so interesting because I posted a tool on my LinkedIn page today, my Instagram page today. The best tool to learn about awareness and to become conscious of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're doing is, I don't know if you remember when I first met you, I often speak about it, is you take your phone or you get an app and you program the alarm to go off every 10 minutes, not seconds, minutes, not hours, minutes, like 60 seconds in a minute, 10 of those.
Okay.
Sorry, some people don't always hear that. And when it goes off, check what was your thought? Who are you with? How are you feeling? And what did you just say? What have you just said? You do this for a minimum of 3 days. I suggest a week. Most people are going squeak at this point. They think, how am I going to do that with work? If you can't do it every 10 minutes, do it every half an hour. Do it. Because you will see a pattern of you either condemning yourself, you're telling yourself a story of lack, of incompetence, lack of confidence, and of fear. And when you become aware of that and you become aware of the feeling of, I can't do this, how am I going to do this? And when you look at who you're doing it around, you become aware of what you are actually creating. If you're happy with that, great. Throw the paper away. If you're not happy with it and you are tired of going through the same cycle of boom and bust, that cycle of being desperate, that cycle of not moving forward, of abusing yourself with the stories you're telling yourself or the stories you're allowing other people to tell you about yourself, wow, you can then get rid of it. That is the first step. When you feel triggered by somebody, That's when you say, okay, what was the trigger? Where is the belief that is holding me to play small? Because something will not trigger you unless it requires healing, attention, or for you just to go, oh, that would have triggered me 3-4 weeks ago. That would have triggered me a year ago. I feel nothing now when the person says it. And then you go, celebration.
Yeah. And that is like, I think that is such a powerful tool as well, because I think what it also shows is, number one, I think one of the other questions too, Janine, let me know if you disagree, is when you're setting that alarm, it's also to start asking yourself, like, whose feelings am I feeling? Whose thoughts am I thinking? Because it's not necessarily yours as well, right? So, and then you can return them to sender, which I have found when I do that, it's just, you're like 10 pounds lighter energetically, because you don't realize how much of it you're absorbing, especially when like you're in business, or when you're, regardless of whether you're a stay-at-home mom, you're a working mom, or you're a fempreneur, when you're sitting in front of your computers and you've got like 100 emails in your system waiting for you, all of that is coming at you. All of it is coming at you with everything else that you have to do. And so there is a lot of energy that you're absorbing. And so it is so important. And it does make such a difference in terms of how you're having your day. And I know that like there are people who may say like, oh, well, I'm just having a bad day, so that's why I got triggered. It's not, or I'm just PMSing, or, like, I don't know if I could say that on LinkedIn, but I'm just PMSing. And, like, that's why I'm having a bad day. But I think that's also a limiting belief. Having a bad day, like, there's a reason why you're having a bad day. And even with your biological responses to things that are happening, it doesn't have to generate irritation. It doesn't have to generate whatever. It's because there is something there for it to be addressed. And that's why it's being, triggered. And so I think it is, I think at the end of it, when you realize, like, even if you do it for a week and then you realize, like, oh my gosh, how far have I come? Like, this is just super powerful. But the best part about it is, it's not even like, oh, wow, I'm so powerful. But the best part of it is like, wow, I'm having a good day, or I'm having a day where I don't have to get agitated. I don't have, like, I'm feeling like this person no longer has power over me. They can't overpower me anymore. And trust me, I have my days where it's like, oh my gosh, the same person can irritate me over and over and over again. I'm human. We're all human. But then it's just a matter of, like you said, looking at what it is that's triggering it. And it just constantly is a reminder that you have to heal through it, because there's a reason why it's coming back. I haven't healed through it. So, yeah, I totally think.
Or another point of view is, you've healed to a certain level. You've healed to the level that you can heal it to. And now you're being asked to heal it to a different level for different expansion.
Right.
And that is, sometimes people say to me, I've done my healing, I'm done. Are you never done? You heal every single day. Our physical body heals every single night.
Right.
Let's quickly start on the story of detoxing. That's a story for another day. We detox and heal every single day. And so does our energy body. It's just we don't allow it. And we stuff it down, and we stuff it down, and we stuff it down. And then it explodes. And when somebody or something is triggering us, it's to go and ask. And it keeps coming back. Ask, where's the lie with this? And I love that you brought forward one of my favorite tools. Whose is this? My niece saw. Whose is this? It feels light. I return to sender with consciousness attack.
Yeah. And you don't have to know who the sender is. You just return it to sender.
And that's the most important point. You don't have to know whose it is.
No, you don't have to go and figure it out, because when you can't figure it out, it stresses you out more, and then it just adds to it. So don't figure it out. Just return it back to sender.
You might not even know the person.
Yeah.
They might not even be in your country. We are all so connected. And you were talking about being on your computer. We can pick up energy and thought processes from people's emails, from their articles. That's why you'll read something and you'll suddenly feel grumpy and unhappy. Whose is it? It's the person who wrote it, or it's somebody else who read it. That's the bottom line. Return back to sender with consciousness attached. Because what do you want to worry and plan around a worry? That's not even your worry in the first place. And I love what you're saying there. When somebody irritates you, stop. People, please, if it's your husband or your children or your boss, do not say this out loud. Say it in your head. That's an interesting point of view. Do not say it out loud. What is it takes the energy off it. It takes your attachment off it, and it takes your emotional response off of it. And what that does is it opens space to create. It shifts the set of your mind. And instead of looking here, you just turn there and you see there instead of here. And what does that do? It opens you up to healing. It opens you up to a new way of thinking.
Right.
And you know what? The other person, something I shared with a client the other day was they were having a few hassles with a figure as somebody in charge of them at work. And I said to them, do yourself a favor. Just visualize the ocean of energy flowing through that person, flowing through you and out the back of you. And just visualize love as energy, as somebody good. The person came back and said, you know what, I started doing that. And this person didn't come near me. And I went, isn't that an interesting point of view? That they couldn't come and dump on you because you sent them appreciation and love. They couldn't come near you to dump their negative energy on you, their negative viewpoints, their negative thing. However, it has been a process. It's been a process over 3-4 months for this person to get there. Other people can get there immediately. It just depends on your point of view. And it's to know who you are. It's to know, I know the days that if I haven't slept, because I wake up at 3 o'clock, I watch my thoughts, I watch my responses, and I watch how I'm feeling. That way I don't procrastinate when I like people.
Yeah.
Because I have awareness of what's going on. For me, lack of sleep is a trigger. And then I just re-energize myself and watch how I'm associating with that day. Because some people may wish to see their grandchildren, live long enough to see their grandchildren. And I don't desire to take them out.
Thank you so much, Janine. You have shared so many tools. We have gone through so many tools for people to be able to start to change their mindset so that they can ultimately reach that level of confidence. And when we talk about confidence, I think it's so important to distinguish the confidence that comes from within, which is what these mindset tools will lead to, versus the confidence that one gets from external things, which is more validation. And that's where we want to help people rely less on, because the validation, when you're constantly seeking validation externally, it's almost like chasing a paper dream or chasing something that may or may not, it's fickle, right? It's up to the other person or up to the other thing that's out there. And so confidence, the best form of or the strongest form of confidence, I believe, or the truest form of confidence, comes from within. And it's a knowing that you can. It's a knowing that you have the power to change the situation. And more importantly, it's a knowing who you are and what you stand for, especially as workers, as employees, as fempreneurs, as individuals. This level of confidence will give you this huge return on investment in so many different ways. And it's through that awareness and through that consciousness that we have, that we create, that will allow us to get there. And so these tools have been so valuable, priceless, quite honestly. I know it's what you help your clients do. And so can you share with us what you're working on right now for your clients, where people can find you if they're interested in learning more about your tools?
Let me share one tool before I do that. The
Yes.
best tool for confidence is remember when you did achieve something. Think of that feeling and say, well, if I can achieve, I can do this. Which leads me on to, I have a program called Success Spiral with 4 principles of change, success, and embodying as you transform yourself. They can find me on all platforms as Janine Kathleen with the K. On Instagram, it has an underscore between the Janine and the Kathleen. On Facebook, it's Janine Kathleen. And if you'd like to work with me one-on-one to improve your mindset and how to navigate that delicious spiral of success, that success spiral and the change spiral of life, reach out. Because when you learn how to embody what you are learning, wow, there's no stopping you. And like Jean said, we're offering you tools here because I often say to my clients, yes, you can take me home on Facebook. You can watch all my lives. However, ultimately, you have you. And when you have that deep inner confidence within yourself that you may not know at this point how to do something, and that you are able to work it out how to do it, that gives you so much more confidence because everyone has access to infinite possibilities. I would love to chat with you again and thank you so much for the privilege of being able to share with your audience.
Thanks, Janine. So thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Confidence Code Activation. Bye, guys.
Bye.